Let's go. As I've said many times before, I'm ridiculously excited for the HBO Harry Potter series. There have been a few updates recently, so let's take a look. So, it looks like filming is going to start probably this summer, with it supposedly being premiered in late 2026. Now, personally, I reckon it'll actually end up premiering probably in early 2027. But no bother either way, this time in 2 years, we'll hopefully be properly stuck into season 1, and I cannot wait. It's going to be filmed in the Leavesden Studios, which is the same studios that the films were made at in the first place, which is great. I'm actually going to the studio tour in a few weeks actually, which I must say I'm very excited for. Anyway, so there's been a few casting updates to talk about, so let's check them out. So as far as I'm aware, the only 100% definite confirmed casting is Dumbledore. As you've probably heard by now, it's John Lithgow. Now, I'm absolutely gassed for this one. I think it's actually quality casting. There's obviously massive stakes on every casting decision for this show because the viewers are inevitably going to be comparing the new casting choices with the old casting choices from the films. So there's invariably going to be huge pressure. Now, Dumbledore is obviously one of the most important characters in this story, and a lot of the main storylines of the story go through and relate to his character. Now, to be completely honest, I wasn't 100% happy with Michael Gambon's Dumbledore in the films. I'm not saying it was the actor's fault, it might have been the writing too, I'm not really sure to be honest, but it just missed the mark for me. Now, if they can smash Dumbledore's portrayal with a great casting decision, then that is a great start, I would say. And I think John Lithgow might just be a quality casting decision. John Lithgow is a phenomenally versatile actor who's had a huge career and been in some massive TV shows and films. He won an Emmy for his role as the Trinity Killer in Dexter with an incredible performance which showed off the character depth that John Lithgow can bring to the table. His character in Dexter was completely insane, but crucially, he had many different layers to him and he was very, very complex and had the ability to switch from being incredibly calm to being absolutely terrifying, but in a very measured and calculated way. Obviously, Dumbledore isn't a mental serial killer, but Dumbledore is an extremely complex character. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure that Dumbledore's true levels and many layered personality were ever fully conveyed in the films. Dumbledore has got many different strings to his bow. He can be witty and comedic, calm and patient, but he's also the most powerful wizard in the world, or perhaps joint with Voldemort, depending on your opinion, and can occasionally be terrifying when he shows off his power. Dumbledore is also quirky and eccentric and unpredictable. He's also got a very complicated past and carries with him a lot of guilt and trauma. On top of all this, he's often got ulterior motives to what he appears to be doing. He's very, very secretive, and he does seem to find it quite easy to withhold information from people, or even in some cases lie. He's easily the most complicated character in the Harry Potter series, therefore, John Lithgow's portrayal of the Trinity Killer in Dexter would suggest that he's got the tools to pull off an accurate portrayal of the true complexity and depth of Dumbledore's character. Now, Lithgow also won an Emmy for his masterful portrayal of Winston Churchill in The Crown. If you've not watched any of his scenes in The Crown, I encourage you to go check them out because they're absolutely brilliant. Now, Winston Churchill was very well known for having specific characteristics and mannerisms. He spoke in a very distinctive way, said certain words with unique flair, and was known for the specific way that he moved around. John Lithgow absolutely nailed these features in The Crown. He's clearly an expert character actor. I think this is perfect for Dumbledore, to be honest. Dumbledore speaks in quite a distinctive way. His movements and expressions are often very carefully measured, and he also gives off an impression of energy and wit, whilst also being very calm and collected. I think John Lithgow has got the arsenal to absolutely smash it as Dumbledore. I think something that was largely missed out from the films was Dumbledore's humour. Now, Dumbledore's character is actually really funny and witty. He loves cracking jokes and being quirky. This is John Lithgow's acting style to a T. Winston Churchill was known for his intelligence and wit, and John Lithgow completely nailed this element of the character. Also, if you didn't know, John Lithgow was the actor behind Lord Farquaad in Shrek, so he's definitely got the whole quirky comedic thing going on. And lastly, Dumbledore is deep. He's got deep-rooted guilt and sadness which need to come across properly in the series. In fairness, this is something that Michael Gambon did achieve a bit, specifically in the Half-Blood Prince film, but I think John Lithgow will also smash this. I thought his performance in the Rise of the Planet of the Apes film as Charles Rodman was beautiful and moving, and exactly the sort of emotional depth that would bring Dumbledore's character to life properly. Now, the only potential issue is John Lithgow's age. He might be too old, to be completely honest. He'll be almost 90 when they probably finish filming, and to be quite honest, they could have gone with someone younger, but equally, Richard Harris was only 70 when they started filming, and he sadly passed away 2 years later when he was only 72. So you can't really plan these things, to be honest. Fingers crossed it doesn't end up being an issue. Also, John Lithgow will be 79 when they start filming season 1, so the majority of the filming of the show will take place while he's in his early and mid 80s, and there's plenty of examples of big actors still going strong in their 80s. Also, at the end of the day, Dumbledore isn't exactly an action hero. Barely any of his scenes will be particularly physically demanding, with one obvious exception. He's also barely going to be in the final season much, and if they're smart, they could even film his scenes for the final season before they start filming the rest of that season. So I think that this casting of John Lithgow as Dumbledore could be a masterstroke if the age thing doesn't end up being an issue. But what about the rest of the cast? So, as far as I'm aware, there's no other definite castings at this point aside from Dumbledore's character as John Lithgow. But let's take a look at some of the rumoured castings for the other main characters in the show. McGonagall. So, it's not been 100% confirmed, but it looks like McGonagall is probably going to be played by Janet McTeer. Now, if it is Janet McTeer, then this could be another masterstroke piece of casting. I promise I'm not being a kiss-ass, but I genuinely do feel that she would nail it. If you didn't know, she's probably best known for her character in Ozark, Helen Pierce. She was one of my favourite characters in Ozark, which is a phenomenal TV show, by the way, if you haven't seen it. She was a strong female character who was extremely powerful and ruthless. She was really scary, to be honest, and 100% not someone to be messed with. But there was something in her character that was just beneath the surface, a mere suggestion of softness. She was ruthless and formidable, but she wasn't completely evil. There were reasons behind why she did what she did, and she did have a heart somewhere in there. Janet McTeer's portrayal of Helen Pierce was so good because she had the ability to be terrifying by being calm and in control. She had a very collected, elegant and professional way of conducting herself, which in a way made her even more intimidating. Now, I think that this sort of acting style will be perfect for Minerva McGonagall. Minerva McGonagall is definitely not as ruthless or brutal as Helen Pierce in Ozark, but she is a very powerful, sharp and intelligent witch, and definitely not somebody to be messed with. She comes across as cold and harsh a lot of the time, but she does care about people, even though she barely ever shows it. McGonagall gives off authority, and I think Janet McTeer might be perfect for that. McGonagall is definitely not as complex as Dumbledore, and probably one of the less complicated characters in the series if you think about it. You can usually predict how McGonagall will act in certain situations, but there is definitely emotional depth there, and I think Janet McTeer definitely has that. Her performance as Alyssa Jones in Marvel's Jessica Jones shows us how she can effortlessly play strong female characters with emotional depth and complexity. I should also point out that Janet also won a Golden Globe for her performance as Mary Jo Walker in Tumbleweeds, and was nominated for an Oscar for her role in Albert Nobbs. I'll say it again, if Janet McTeer is chosen for McGonagall, I think it could just be another masterstroke casting decision. There's the small issue of her inevitably being compared to the absolute titan that is Maggie Smith, but hopefully she will be able to put her own stamp on the character. Okay, now Snape. Again, there is no confirmed casting here, but it is rumoured to be Paapa Essiedu. Okay, so the stakes are obviously huge on this one. Alan Rickman's portrayal of Snape was legendary. It really doesn't get much better than that. Snape's character is, alongside Dumbledore, probably the most complex in the series because he's morally ambiguous. Even when you discover his full character arc, you're kind of left unsure if he's good or bad. He's definitely very complicated. He's not evil. He's definitely not in the camp of Voldemort or Bellatrix, but some of his actions are very cruel, and he's a very manipulative and bitter person. But he does have a heart. So it will take a certain calibre of actor to pull it off properly. So Paapa Essiedu does definitely have the depth and ability to do it. His character Kwame in the 2020 series I May Destroy You goes through intense trauma. Paapa Essiedu shows off his emotional depth with an exceptional performance that saw him nominated for an Emmy and a BAFTA. I also thought Essiedu was quality in the episode of Black Mirror that he appeared in, Demon 79. His character Gab was a dark, sinister and mysterious villain which showed off the actor's versatility. Snape's character is all about emotional trauma, internal conflict and regret, and Essiedu is capable of smashing it. So another thing worth noting is his age. He's currently 34. Let's say they start filming later this year as planned, he'll be 35 at the point of filming. Now this is actually perfect for Snape's character and way more accurate in terms of age than Alan Rickman. When they started filming Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone back in 2000, Alan Rickman was 54. This is actually way older than Snape was supposed to be. Severus Snape during Harry's first year at Hogwarts should be 31 or 32. To be honest, it didn't really feel like an issue in the films at all because Alan Rickman's portrayal was absolutely incredible. It didn't seem to matter. But technically, Paapa Essiedu being 34 or 35 at the point of filming would be far more accurate to the books. Okay, so now the elephant in the room. There has been controversy about Essiedu being rumoured to play Snape in the HBO series due to his appearance not matching how the character has been described in the books. So let's break it down. In the books, Snape is specifically mentioned as being pale-skinned with greasy black hair and a hooked nose. They are his main features. Having thought about it though, I don't think having Essiedu play Snape with black skin is really an issue at all. It's not exactly an important part of Snape's character having pale skin. Like, yes, it is described as such in the book, but it doesn't really define anything about his character. I do think the greasy black hair and hooked nose are kind of crucial to play Snape, but it's not exactly unusual for an actor to wear a wig and a prosthetic nose for a character, so to be honest, I don't actually think it matters at all. Snape's skin colour isn't really a crucial part of his character one way or another. It'll be much more important that Essiedu is able to nail Snape's internal conflicts and emotional issues. I think he has got all the abilities to smash this role. It's a bit different as he's not as well known as John Lithgow or Janet McTeer, but in fairness, he's also way younger than both of them. So you can't really make that comparison, to be honest. Now, the big one, Voldemort. Again, there's no confirmation, but rumours are suggesting it's going to be Cillian Murphy. Now, I would absolutely love him to play Voldemort. Cillian Murphy is, of course, probably most well known for Tommy Shelby in the Peaky Blinders series. Incredible performance from him. He's a phenomenal actor and his portrayal of Tommy was cold, calculated and menacing. Voldemort is at his most terrifying when he's speaking quietly and calculating, rather than screaming in a blind rage. Cillian does exactly this with Tommy Shelby. He's mostly collected and manipulative, and then every now and then he completely loses it and he's terrifying. I think Cillian's acting will actually be perfect for Voldemort. Also, Cillian Murphy's obviously ridiculously good looking, but he does have something a little bit creepy in his eyes. It might be the way he gazes, it makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. There's something a tiny bit eerie about him, and this creepiness might lend itself perfectly to playing Voldemort. Voldemort isn't just an incredibly powerful dark wizard. He's also completely evil. He enjoys causing pain to people, he's a master manipulator, and he enjoys controlling people and getting them to do what he wants. But he's charming when he wants to be, especially when he's younger, and he was described as being very good looking. You can easily see how Cillian Murphy would be perfect for this. All they would have to do is distort his features a little bit, and you could see how he would be the perfect Voldemort. Several of Cillian Murphy's most celebrated roles have been quiet, calculating, and manipulative. Tommy Shelby, obviously, but also his character in Oppenheimer. He played J. Robert Oppenheimer in a deeply disturbing, quietly menacing, creepy way, and earned an Oscar and a Golden Globe for his incredible performance. If Cillian is casted as Voldemort, I don't think anyone could argue with it. It would be amazing. Now for Hagrid. So, this one is rumoured that it's going to be Brett Goldstein. I have to be honest, right? I don't really get this one. Brett Goldstein is a great actor and his character in Ted Lasso, Roy Kent, is absolutely amazing. but his acting style is generally quite deadpan and sarcastic. The actor seems to have a dry sort of humour that definitely comes across in quite a few of his characters. Not only Roy Kent, but he's also the same when he plays Bob Kenner in Super Bob. I also loved him in Derek. His character in Derek was very down to earth and understated, and again had a dry sense of humour. Like I say, these characters were all great, but Brett Goldstein's character doesn't generally scream Hagrid to me at all, to be honest. Despite his appearance as a tough and scary half-giant, Hagrid wears his heart on his sleeve. He's very sensitive and he's easily hurt. He's also a bit blundering and doesn't really think too much before he speaks. He often gets himself into bad situations by acting on his emotions and impulse, rather than being thoughtful and considered, but he's extremely kind-hearted and fiercely loyal. You see what you get with Hagrid. He's definitely funny, but not really in a witty or sarcastic way. It's more like you laugh at him for doing something bumbling and clumsy, but in a nice way. Brett Goldstein's characters have generally been based around being witty and having great comedic timing. So yeah, I'm not really sure about this one, to be honest. Brett Goldstein is definitely a talented actor, but if he was cast as Hagrid, it would just feel a little bit random to me, to be honest. Hagrid's portrayal needs to be warm, kind-hearted and sensitive, but also blundering, erratic, impulsive and in the nicest possible way, not the most intelligent. Hagrid's a fantastic character and he needs to be played in a bubbly and open way. Now, Petunia Dursley. So again, this has not been confirmed, but it is rumoured to be Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And do you know what? I don't really get this one either, to be honest. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is a legend and her character in Fleabag is iconic. She rightly won multiple awards for her character, Fleabag, who expertly blended comedy with vulnerability due to her character's inner depth and complexity. Phoebe Waller-Bridge clearly has a sharp, sarcastic and dark sense of humour that we do see in Fleabag, partly in her role in Indiana Jones and definitely in her writing of Killing Eve. She's amazing, but I don't really see any of this in Aunt Petunia, to be honest. I'm sure that she could pull it off, but it just doesn't seem like an obvious choice in the way that John Lithgow, Janet McTeer and Cillian Murphy would be for their respective characters. Aunt Petunia literally doesn't have an ounce of wit or humour in her body. She's boring, uptight, conservative, rigid and cold. She's a complete snob and obsessed with what the neighbours think. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's characters generally seem to be defined by their wit, energy and comedy. It doesn't really scream Aunt Petunia to me. The problem is, I think Fiona Shaw's portrayal of Aunt Petunia was almost complete perfection. It's hard to follow, but whoever does take on the role needs to show Petunia's cold, snobbish, bitter vibe, whilst also giving a nod to her complicated and jealous feelings towards her sister and her true, deeply buried feelings about the magical world. And that is that for now. Let me know your thoughts about these casting decisions and rumours in the comments section, and if you enjoyed this video, drop it a like and subscribe to the channel for more.